Yo, what is going on, everybody? We are unranked at the moment, 8 out of 10 matches. And yeah, it is the start of the season. Difficult season, this one, isn't it? Difficult season, apparently. Well, it is. So right now, it's actually the 27th, so I'm a little bit late getting through these. Just depending on schedule. Hopefully the quality's improved as well. In these videos, you know, I've been trying to get the quality back up, but basically the season has been, they've sort of lowered the rankings. I mean, when I was playing this, I wasn't sure what I was going to get, and that's why I switched accounts. So I'm actually on my main account here because I thought, well, I never really use it for these videos, but I might as well if we're going to go from Grand Champ, because this account was Grand Champ at the end of last season. But upon playing, it decided to go a little bit lower. Let's say the Grand Champ. As far as the placements matches to before this game, we got off to a pretty hot start, to be honest. I won 4 in a row, I believe. I'd won about 6 in 1. So I was ahead going into these last 2 games. Mainly just trying to use the basics again. And so you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Dave, we saw you play last season. You got to Grand Champ, big deal, you know. Is the point proven? Well, people are still questioning it, but that's not a problem. You're allowed to. That's what life's all about. Question it, question it, question it. But I just want to keep going because, you know, I feel that I can take this much further if I play well. And it's a big if, you know. It's going to be difficult because I'm like the awkward player. You know, everyone plays in a set way that if you play that way, it kind of helps them. I've got to be honest. You know, if you all just ball chase, it's probably going to work in a way just because you're all doing it and you don't mess them up. But if you have one player who's a little bit weird like me who plays slow, it could really mess people up. But I'm still going to persist with it, and I'm still going to try and get a bit higher just because, you know, I want the legitimacy. Look, I don't play much Rocket League anymore. That is a brilliant shot, Jesus. I really don't, you know. People say you coach. I do coach, but I don't play often. Sometimes I play with the, you know, people I'm coaching to take them actually with this account. We used to take people into Grand Champ games and Champ 3 games so they can just see how easy it is as far as relaxation when you use the right methods. But, you know, I don't work on mechanics. I've never been a mechanical player. Anyone will tell you that. In fact, I've got less mechanics than I had many years ago when I was top 16 EU RLCS Season 2. Because, you know, I used to be a freeze player. Don't forget, I used to be a freeze main. And I used to actually be very mechanical for the time with standard air roll. But, well, there was no air roll left and air roll right at the time. And luckily, very early on, I started with air roll. And so I actually had a big head start. And there was no flip resets as well. So the stuff I did was pretty much, you know, very straightforward. And it didn't have all these extra dimensions now that you've got with flip resets and so on and so forth. But, you know, since then, after what happened, you know, some of you know the story about the teammate not turning up. You know, we're top 16. We're going into the qualifiers for LAN. And the teammate doesn't show up for practice at the beginning. Turns up late. We had Kowalski, who was brilliant. And we were actually winning every single match. We should have stuck with him. I think we would have got to LAN. But anyway, long story short, we didn't make it. We got very close, but we didn't make it. Team Underdogs represent. But I used to do all that. And, you know, playing that style, it's fun and I get it, but I actually started to realize, well, it's hard to score. I started to see gaps because believe it or not, you won't believe it, in Season 1 and Season 2, I would be considered a very mechanical player. Probably a little bit ahead of where everyone else was, apart from obviously the pros from SOP. So I used to, you know, I think in 2015, in Season 1, I hit my first double touch aerial. You know, and it wasn't even a thing then. You know, no one was doing stuff like that. I just did a lot of aerial stuff because of the position I played, which was midfield. Anyway, so yeah, and then I sort of started refining things and said, well, there's no point doing all this stuff if you can't get the ball on the ground first, because everything starts on the ground, you know, everything starts on the kickoff. And then it sort of went from there, and then it snowballed, and I said, well, hold on a second. There are people who are doing what I'm doing, and this was in Season 2, Season 3, but they're throwing it away. And it started to really bug me. This is one of the reasons I stopped playing freeze, because people just hit the ball away and then just drive off. Where it was like they'd go for real complex movements, let's say, and then if they missed it, they'd just drive off, or they'd waste their boost to do it. So that's where I started going more not even no mechanics, but just playing for, you know, the idea of strategy in this game. And also because I got more and more busy. You know, I was doing my degree at the time. I went back to back. I did my bachelor's straight into my master's. I didn't have a lot of time to play. And I was working, managing a gym, so I didn't have a lot of time to play. And I had to come up with ways and methods to how can I get the most bang for my buck. And it was at the time, and I still believe so, was being very chilled out. Now with the season reset, everyone's having a difficult time because everyone's playing that game. And so I'm hoping that other people who are similar to me, you know, if you're out there, even if you're younger, but if you're out there in your 30s, you know, late 20s, whatever, you're a little bit even older, you know, you're slower, your mechanics are hard to come by. Is there a way we can just focus on fundamental mechanics, just 3 or 4 mechanics that we really need to focus on, and the rest becomes down to strategy and positioning? And I believe that to be so. You know, that's why I'm all about this. So I'm just sort of yabbering on here while the games are in the background, just because I didn't record the audio for the first 3 games, unfortunately. It happens. But yeah, got off to a good start in this first game. Decent teammate. You know, we just playing the ball again. Notice how I'm being slow there. When they go for that, I'm just being slow. And really trying to focus on staying central. If you could do anything, I would say stay central for solo queue. I've had people say recently, you know, even again in the comments of the last video, that the method doesn't work and so on and so forth. It does work. You've got to remember this is designed for 2 players. You still have to practice, you know, just because you're doing these things, you're in these positions, doesn't mean the game's going to give itself to you. You've still got to be a little bit skillful with certain things. For example, side flipping. You know, you can work on side flips for a long time and you can still find it extremely difficult. God knows what I was doing there. But you've got to really focus on the most important aspects of the game for getting started. I've seen a lot of players actually who can hit these aerial plays, double touches, all this cool stuff, flip resets, great. But they look really out of place on the ground, like they can't seem to control the game. And it's all about controlling the game. So that's what I would suggest with that, is make sure you're working on your fundamentals. What are the fundamentals as far as offensive mechanics? Well, it's your low 50s. It's understanding every single 50 and what to do in every single situation of momentum. That, you know, being able to get any sort of lift or direction change on the ball is an extremely high, an important fundamental movement. Back in the days, in 1v1, all I used to do was just drag the ball one way and then drag it the other. And that was enough because people really struggled to hit the ball. It was a different time. And you know, guys, the support's been amazing. We're close to 5,000 subscribers, and I will do a reaction to my old videos. And I think some of you who may not have seen these might be surprised, you know, that these videos will be from 2015, 2016, and you'll see how mechanically I've degraded in my mechanics. And what's quite fascinating is I think people are starting to see that were we wrong? And again, it's like everything in life. And like, this is what I said ages ago and everyone laughed at me, but you got to question everything. And I was one of the big people. The reason everyone always asked me, can you do an air roll? Can you do an air roll video on how to air roll? You know, air roll left, air right. And I said, no, I'm not joining that just for the algorithm because I don't believe in it. Yes, it's important. Yes, it can help you. Yes, it can help you do air dribbles. Yes, it can help you do flip resets. I don't disagree with that. But my point was that you don't need it. And I'm more focused on stuff that I feel you really need, okay? Stuff that's important, because otherwise, it's just filler and fluff. Sometimes that's good, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it gives you an extra weapon to your arsenal, but it's not imperative. And a lot of people said you have to absolutely have air roll left, air roll right. And it's the reason I'm bringing this up is I was just watching Squishy, and he was saying like he actually regrets having air roll right. He says, I wish I just stuck with air roll. When I was and he said this is his exact words. I was quoting him. I actually tried to clip it, but you can't clip his channel for some reason. When I was in consideration for being the #1 player in the world, I had free air roll. He said as soon as I changed it, I went back, and this is exactly what I pointed out. I said the game has slowed down. It's easier to become a pro, and I remember it when it started. All these air rolls came in. I said the game is slowing down. People can smash these players, and everyone thought I was talking nonsense, and I really believe that because people follow the trend. No one's a free thinker anymore. Oh, everyone's learning air roll. If there was a few players that just decided not to learn the direction on air roll and stuck with their free air roll, I wonder where they'd be right now. Well, I can tell you where they'd be. Alpha 54. Pretty damn good, right? Just signed a 2-year extension if I'm not mistaken. And not only that, Scrub Killer got rid of his air roll, left air roll, right, and he's gone back to free air roll, and he's now kicking ass in Hogan mode. You know, this is what I'm saying. You've got to question things. Do I use air roll, direction air roll? Yes. Will I, continue to? Yes. But what I'm saying is, I remember at the time thinking, what if all those players who were so good just carried on and had even longer, really refining those movements? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? And look at that, baby. Hook shot, baby. Woo! Hook shot in traffic as well. All off the lateral dribble you see here. Get the lateral dribble because we got space. Again, the basics, baby. And then bunk, lateral dribble, hook shot. It's so hard for people to defend that. And God knows what the rank is here because we're going to get our rank in a second. Yeah, spoiler alert, had a very good start to this season. I'm not going to lie, you'll see in the upcoming episodes, it went very well for me. And it was because I was exploiting everyone in the sense that everyone was panicking. So I just chilled. And it's something I've always done when I learned it in basketball. And it's not a disrespect thing, but in basketball, you pick out your opponent's weaknesses. You verbalize them. You talk trash. If someone sucks at dribbling, you tell them they suck at dribbling. If someone can't guard you, you tell them they can't guard you. Well, in Rocket League, it's a bit different. It shouldn't be, but it is. In situations where players should see people not doing stuff good and be like, this guy's not that good, they panic. So, for example, they'll see someone do a flip reset and they go, oh my God, this player's done 10,000 hours of free play. And they start sweating, they're panicking, they're having flushes. Now, what I do, I say, whoa, good flip reset. Shame the dribble sucked. Because in my head, now I'm better than them, okay? And I'll do this to anyone I play. Everyone I play, I always just instantly point out their flaws. I'm not interested in their strengths. I point out their flaws because I'm going to play to their flaws, okay? And this is a mentality thing, and it might help some of you guys. But what I see when I'm working with certain people is when they see a player do a flip reset or do something semi-decent, okay? They go, oh my God, it must be a Smurf and they must be top 100/pro. No, they wouldn't. You wouldn't even get a touch of the ball for a start. The thing is, you need to stop looking at them like that. So right now, if I go into this game, I'm not looking at whatever moves these guys are doing that are good. I'm pointing out all their flaws in my head. All their flaws. All right? Because that now puts in my head that I'm better than them, even if I'm not, but it puts me in my head that I'm better, and then my confidence goes up. And what that does is it keeps me calmer and it allows me to chill more on defense and get those openings. So right now I look at this and I say, okay, that was a bad flip. So that sucks. And why have they just turned out there? Okay, that's no good. And look at that bad control. They've hit their way. So now I say, okay, these guys don't know how to play the game. They do? No, they do. I'm not having a go. But that's how I do things in my head because this is how you keep composure. That's how I keep composure anyway. So I say, look, they don't know what they're doing. And that's why I even take these chances. I go, oh, they don't know what they're doing. But they do. Okay, they do. Obviously, these guys are champ free, which would have probably meant grand champ last season. So that's how I look at the game. And that's how I view things. And that's, if you're struggling, if you're getting tilted on someone doing a flip reset shot, just focus on all the bad stuff they're doing. That's the real trick that I use. And I used it for everything. If jiu-jitsu, basketball, anything, boxing, I would always say, okay, this guy doesn't have a good jab defense. Their body's open. They look out of breath. Just always focusing on the negatives, the flaws. And people go, hey, that's toxic. It's not toxic. Toxic, I believe, is self-toxicity. Okay, and what I mean by that is if you're toxic, like I'm not telling these people to their faces. I'm not saying, you guys just don't know how to rotate or anything. But in my head, I'm thinking this. All right. But what's really toxic is being toxic to yourself, man. So being like, oh, they're better than me. You get out of there, buddy. You're toxic to yourself. Go take a ice cold bath or something because your mindset's wrong. If you're like that, you are destroying yourself. The only person in life who's going to have your back is you. Yeah. So you've got to have your own back and get your confidence up. Just trust me. Try and put the thoughts of them being bad out there and you being good out there. And maybe then, it can help you in a mindset thing. This is a little mindset thing, but I'm not even sure I got this. So I love talking sometimes because you just come out with the most random stuff. How far can you get with just free air roll? Pretty far. Which brings me on to another point. And this point's quite an important one, I feel. Because it's something I've never understood, but I still see it to this day, and it makes no sense. So when you tell someone to play like Flakes, to take your time, to fake, to power slide cut, do you know what they always say? To defend in logical positions, they say, it only works because Flake's a pro. It only works because Flake was a top 100 player. Okay? Then they'll watch them and they'll see quadruple flip resets, psycho, musty double flip resets, and they'll go, yeah, I'll practice that because I can definitely do that. What are you talking about? Okay, no one ever questions that, do they? That's where I don't understand the mindset of the Rocket League community. They'll see Flakes do a power slide cut, they say it only works because it's Flakes. They'll watch AJ do a quadruple reset and they go, yeah, I better practice that. They don't say it only works because Flakes is got like 16,000 hours in free play and he's a pro and he's probably just very gifted at the game anyway, or Zen for example. They don't say that. They say it only works because Flakes is a former pro. Same with Lefamir. It only works because Lefamir is a former pro. What? What have you got, time-wise? What's your time-wise? Have you got 16,000 hours to go and throw in free play? Have you got the ability to do that? Well, if you have, maybe it's worth it then. Maybe it really is if you've got that time. Most people don't have that time. Most people got lives. Most people got school, jobs, family, commitments. We ain't got time to sit in free play for 16,000 hours working on the same move. Plus, I'd probably go a little bit insane. Some people might say I already am. You've got, half an hour a day maybe. Half an hour, 3 days a week just to do power slide cuts? Perfect. Then you're going to get further than most people. Well, why? Well, let's go back to that free air roll analogy. When people were doing free air rolls, they were doing great. And what happened was there was a transitional period where they started to practice the other stuff. That required another buy-in of 4,000 hours to get 2,000 hours maybe to get down. Now, what was the point? Well, the point was that they thought it would be better off. And for some players, you could argue it is. But for other players, you could make the argument, well, it didn't work. And again, people say, well, it only didn't work for Alpha 54 because it's Alpha 54. But they don't say, but it only worked for the other pros because they're also pros. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny how they switch back. But so that's what I'm saying. It's making the most bang for your buck. It's making the most out of your time. Do you really have the time to do triple flip resets? Do you honestly believe there's a flip reset for you? Didn't work very well, did it? Do you honestly believe you're going to hit him in game? Or just work on a basic flick and score? The choice is yours. One you can do in 1,000 hours and you can get yourself right up in the top ranks. The other one is going to take you 15,000 hours to get. And a lot of time. A lot of time. I know people, I'm not mentioning any names, who really improved their kickoff. They played the game non-stop for 400 hours, just doing the kickoff over and over. Like I say, if you've got the time, maybe do it. But if you haven't, which most people don't, do something else. Do something that makes sense. Does it only work because Flakes is a pro? No, it works the way it does because Flakes is a pro, as in he can see things. He's got better vision than most. He can see things. He can predict the play better. But the actual mechanic of it doesn't work just because he's a pro. Could I say the same with flip reset redirect? Absolutely. Does it work because they're a pro? No, it only works the way it does because they're a pro. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Well, a bit of a rant there. We've just finished up this episode. Hope that was enjoyable. Listen to me rant for the whole episode. Don't worry, we will get more into the games in the next episode, as I did find out that I had the sound off. So thank you for watching. Peace out. Peace.